So the firehouse militia ties in with gun control in that you don't want the police tied in with the militia. You want the police to be somewhat like friendly night watchmen, and their specialty would be figuring out, who committed a crime, and maybe even things like adjudication on the spot with a car accident, like China does. I'd like to see that happen. Maybe things like some coaching for some kids who are juvenile delinquents and that kind of thing. I was a juvenile delinquent coach on Nantucket at the Marine Laboratory. That was one of my jobs. Not an easy job. So the firehouse militia is not an odd duck. It's what we got to do to ensure public safety and public sanity, in a way. The people that we want to encourage to have a gun may be, a third stringer with the firehouse militia. And as a firehouse militia person, militiaman, militia woman, as a firehouse militia person, you may be on the third string with disaster preparation and being on call. You may be a teacher on call with the firehouse militia, which means you are trained. You have a certain amount of training. Low-level training is fine. If I'm right about this, we want the numbers of the good people. If you're not qualified and you're a member of a clubhouse, then you can be part of the Friends of the Firehouse Militia group. There's all kinds of ways around being unsupportive to people who don't fit in as officially the best candidates to carry a gun, etc., to be directing traffic, what have you. Public servants of a responsible nature. I'm with the old volunteer firemen thinking that you need numbers of people to be stepping up when the call goes out. You need to send the call out to a couple hundred people. It's the old bucket brigade theory. So I'm going to switch over to the green grid. No, I've talked about the green grid. No, I'm going to talk about the green grid because it's not sinking in that what actually does solve the energy crisis and potentially global warming, if it's possible. I think it is. I'd like to say I'm optimistic that we could solve this. Solve it without a lot more ecosystems crashing and extinctions occurring and chaos, environmentally, economically. So with the green grid system, we have a system of energy storage from windmills. This is what solves the energy crisis along with energy shipment. So it's the energy shipment and energy storage is what gets it. It gets the job done. What's the job? Solve the energy crisis. Solve global warming. So this gets it. This gets the job done. When it's built out, we will not be at all beholden to the people that support Donald Trump to say, oh, these windmills are nothing, when the wind blows, fine. When it doesn't blow. Now, I see that problem. But what gets the energy crisis actually solved is the intermittency issue has to be conquered and disposed of and dealt with. But not entirely, because you'll have plenty of windmills close to the need, let's say off of the Vineyard, off Nantucket, which can send electricity straight in if that's what you want to do. Then we can do that. Now you can have wind backing up wind with a system like that. You can have a diesel generator that is turbocharged with oxygen-rich compressed air. And you can flip that on when you need it. You can have also compressed air. Now, if we run the compressed air to Niagara Falls, etc., with this addition of pumped hydro, you're pumping the water up, and then you can use it to run the dynamos and the generators, etc. So pumped hydro is big with me. And that's why we want one of the first lines for this green grid transit. It wants to be going straight for that hydro. And we get pretty significant amount of hydropower. We can, with the windmills, producing compressed air and not with piston-driven operation. My compressed air is made with a conveyor belt that drags the compressed air down to depth, additive all the way down in bladders. So you have, let's say, 40 different windmills run by hydraulics that have hydraulic motors that pump hydraulic fluid to the conveyor belt, let's say 40 of these windmills, 50, 60 of them. And so this conveyor belt's running and bringing air down to depth. That's your compressed air. I don't use the piston-driven compressors unless I'm down a few miles down in depth. This is for specialized compressed air that's compressed well beyond anything that most, unless it's an industrial use. Okay, the green grid gets it. It gets the energy crisis solved because of energy storage and energy shipment. So let's say we bought Greenland and we traded Puerto Rico for Greenland, and we got Greenland. We got a hold of Greenland, which I thought was a great idea. Donald must be watching my show. Come on now, President Trump. Are you watching my show? I think you are. So if we buy Greenland, that would be a good idea. I would say throw them out. Don't say we want to buy Greenland. It's an insult. It's true. Say we'll give you $499 billion for Greenland. And they say, yes, make it, 799 billion and you got a deal. And we say, all right. So now we've got Greenland and we're putting up a bunch of windmills there. And we're producing all this electricity, which produces the hydrogen. And we're producing compressed air. You can use boreholes on land for the production of compressed air. Same thing. A borehole along with a standpipe gets you your depth of water. And that's for the plains mills, mostly. Now, if we bought Greenland, then we could provide power for Europe and the United States, Canada. This would all be done using international consortiums, too, with this stuff. But we have to solve the energy crisis. We have to solve global warming. And it's just a shame that the lefty-loosey crowd here on the Cape, not to mention Republicans who are ignoramuses here on Cape Cod and the islands, for not getting behind me on fisheries issues, just utterly ignorant, ignoramus people in the Republican Party here on the Cape and Islands. Not to say, that guy's a project champion, you got to get over the fact that you messed with him, you got to go to jail. You know, you're a cop who got into politics, go to jail. We have to move on here. Okay. So that's not happening. We love our corrupt officials here in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is corrupt. We had a great guy, Scott Lively. Had to knock him out. Had to knock out Senator Dan Wolf. Had to knock him out, huh? Hello, liberals. You watched. You don't have a clue about supporting someone who's a project champion for the environment. I'm telling you, with the oligarchy, what they do is they put a big, huge monkey wrench right in the middle of our political system. And in the middle used to be people in the middle who controlled from the middle politics, not left and right wing crazy politics. So when you get an oligarchy of people who have self-interests of money and keeping the status quo, then you have basically ruined the country if you don't knock it off, because it'll get worse and worse and worse. So we have a middle with the monkey wrench in the middle. Monkey wrench in the middle with the oligarchy is how that works. Previous, you had good people in the middle of the road, good people from either party. And the wingnuts that managed to get in from either party were probably good champions of a project here and there, very good people, but nonetheless still kind of wingnutty in nature. So when you occupy the middle, and you put people in, and you start assigning people in politics, as the oligarchy has done. Because people like Scott Lively, Steve Scannell, Senator Wolf, potential leaders, you're allowing these people to get knocked out. And I don't want to say it's evil, but it is. America is going south in this respect with the oligarchy. And our good people who have the wherewithal to see what's going on are being shouted down by the ballyhoo boys in the parties who are, as I've said, these are your party puppets. The smartest thing we could do would be to delineate in both parties who are the good people and who are the oligarchy people, so that we can move on here and buy Greenland and do projects, do these energy projects like the Green Grid Transit System, solve the energy crisis. The reason we haven't solved the energy crisis is because we are serving the false god or gods of money. And this is especially true, I think, personally, with your Bible people are easily lined up as well. You wouldn't think so, but I think so. Priests, pastors, I've complained that, you know, you can't let people get lined up by these oligarchy people. You've got to have some savvy, but they don't. People want an easy life. Pastors want an easy life. You know, it's hard enough to deal with, you know, giving a good message from the Bible every week, every Sunday, and trying to hang on to a good little parish of some kind, you know, keeping things together. It's hard enough to do that without getting into politics. Oh my God. So over the years, it's gone to an extreme. And the first thing that happened to allow this to happen was the social services was peeled off from the community and put in the hands of, government workers, whereas churches used to do the work. So I'm not saying there weren't problems with that. Of course, we want the best from every era. Okay. So, in the world that I live in, which is design, as I say, I design complex systems. I design comprehensive, complex systems for the public trust. So, I don't design these systems for the rich. So most of your Democrats actually do line up with the rich, even though they don't admit to it. And to make my point, who was the pick of the Democrats last time around? It was Hillary Clinton. She made a big speech to the rich people. And when Bernie objected, he had every right for the American people to stand with him and say, put it on the table. Little Miss Goody Two-Shoes, what did you do for these rich people? What did you say? Still to this day, the Democrats are tarnished with that. Democrats want to repeal Citizens United. My amendment does that. The Scannell Amendment. Can't get off the dime, can you? These Democrats can't get off the dime? You kidding me? Republicans can't get off the dime. They can't even talk about fishery management, and look, we have no codfish. So these Cape Cod Republicans, they're worthless. What a worthless bunch. You've watched while our codfish have been taken from us. Codfish built this country. We provided codfish to this whole country. Cape Cod and the islands in Massachusetts, Republicans and Democrats. Do you work for God at all? I don't think so. I think you're working for the rich. I don't work for these people. Thank God. And as I say, I'm like Senator Wolf in that respect. Senator Wolf, I think he's a good man, works for God, works for good, works for the public good. He doesn't answer to these rich people on Nantucket. He knows them much better than I do. He doesn't answer to them. You think they wanted him as governor of Massachusetts? No way. Scott Lively, does he answer to these rich people? Look at the interview that my wife and I did with Scott Lively. You'll see this is such a good man on the environmental issues. Maybe you have a beef about homophobia. Well, people have what they have, sometimes for deep-seated reasons. And every person in society should be respected and not, unless they're evil. But the liberals make out everyone to be evil. Everyone but them is evil, it seems, like Nazis, etc. They're getting really bad. But I think we're losing our middle. And that's why. Our core middle good, let's say. Political middle good. We're losing it. These rich people don't understand. They can't understand any more than a heroin addict can understand what's gotten into them. Hang on, Hepsie. We are in trouble. When you have such a good man as me on these issues, now for some reason I made some mistakes with the vehicular homicide and the drugs when I was 18. You have such a good man on these projects, but no, you won't step up for me, and you won't step up for Lively or Senator Wolf. It's deeper than a party thing. It goes to good versus evil. And the parties have gone south. And we've lost our middle. All right. Now, to speak of a different system that also fits in, the mega system, food, soil, and recycle, as I call it. I did 1 or 2 shows on this. Is a great system similar to the fisheries system. It lays out your subsidies and your penalties. Your subsidies are for what you want. Your penalties are for what you want to trend away from. So your penalties could be on soil. You can tax soil that is not of a good composition organically. You can actually tax the soil. The farmer would have to pay the tax unless he's contributing to the organic makeup of the soil. So we can bring our soils in a trending fashion from bad to good. That's so important. Trending is my deal. These are all, basically all of them are trending systems. Some of them aren't. So in that, if we have good soil, what comes from the soil that we eat will also be good. And at the point of the cash register, which is common to recycling and common to the food, but not common to the soil itself, then we can do the same carrot and stick. We can put penalties on the bad, and we can put subsidies on the good. So I fail to see why I should go downtown and start chanting about plastic straws. How stupid are you? Pushing all this plastic straw nonsense. When you can do the mega system for food, soil, and recycle. So with food, soil, and recycle system, you can say, we're gonna favor a compostable straw. So you can tax at the point of manufacture the plastic straws if you want to. I don't think it's really a good idea, but we can compromise, right? I mean, as Arthur DeRocher would say. Nobody wins, so that's good, Okay, so your plastic straw can be taxed, and then your paper straw, which I'm not fond of, can be subsidized, but we could do that. And that would help to trend us from plastic straws, which I love, to these silly paper straws. Now, there's also a reuse factor. If you want to use your straws for a reuse, so if you have some idea, and I've written all this up, a reuse for a plastic straw could be put a dowel in the straw, put 7 of these together, and then add liquid plastic, and you've got a good little structural piece for what have you. So, reuse, repurpose, it's all part of the plan to trend away from the bad and toward the good. So these are all judgment calls, of course. So I fail to see why liberals wouldn't want something like this unless you just want to chant like idiots. I guess that's what you want to do, chanting, going to a protest about, straws or what have you. I just don't get it. Don't you want to actually solve the problem? Or do you want to just agitate, protest, chant? these are problems solved. These systems that I designed, complex systems that are in concept very simple to understand if you can understand the carrot and the stick. If you can't understand the carrot and the stick, maybe you're a lunatic, fringe, left-winger, or right-winger. Maybe if you can't understand some simple trending systems, maybe you're in the lunatic fringe, in the outside 15% of people who can't get it unless it's kind of crazy. So a lot of people think liberals are mentally ill, but you could say the same thing about conservatives who are on the fringes of the spectrum. You can't talk with a right-winger about medical systems if they're a right-winger before they start foaming at the mouth and calling you a communist. You know, you can't even start a conversation before they have to throw it down and walk out of the room angry. These are the angry fringes. I'm not really fond of these people. So if you load more of these people into the middle, as the oligarchy has done, you're dooming this country. So if you've got the wherewithal of a sensible person and you're in one party or another, like I'm in the Republican Party, it'd be nice if we could be heard, the good people in both parties. But the oligarchy doesn't favor the good people. They favor those who line up in both parties. So we have our work cut out for us in America here. That's for sure. So these trending systems, I don't see that as political. I mean, the political debate about a straw might be a political debate about a straw, and people could get carried away, and you say, okay, all right, we'll let you have your way with the straw. You let us have our way with the town nurse-based system. You know, these systems, I think, would be more, these town nurse-based systems would be more of a piece of beautiful, low-hanging fruit for conservatives, let's say. Boy, we can do this. This is something we can do because we have the church people and we can elect good people to be, you know, in charge of people helping people. We can do that. We can work with this. It's all workable. It's all doable. I think what appeals to liberals more is a really convoluted social services system whereby it's just chaos and people are getting hurt, but they don't want to talk about it. There is something crazy and maligned about left-wing people in that respect with social services. And I've been in this for years. I've been in these systems, working on these systems from a couple different angles for years. So if you think we need to just put the red carpet out there for all the druggies in this country, then you're probably a left-winger. If you're clamoring for beds for addicts, well, that's nice. Have a nice day. You have a bed, you have a program, you get fed 3 square meals a day, you go to your groups. What's different between that and jail? Not much. Not much when you come down to it. Hang on, Hepsie, hang on. We have to hang on and do the right thing. Thank you for watching the Scannell Agenda.